we wanted to connect with people from like around the world and from like different like industries and backgrounds, and talk about how coronavirus has affected them, but also proven to be quite an interesting opportunity just to like see into other people's worlds and like just talk about other stuff.
Absolutely.
Take this as an opportunity. I don't know. Tell us a bit about yourself, because she's told me a little bit, but
Yeah.
I don't know loads.
God knows. So I'm originally from Brazil. I've been living outside of Brazil for the last 6 years now. I just ordained as a Buddhist monk, as you can see. It's been 2.5 months ago, actually. It was in January. I've been involved with Buddhism for the past 5 years. And it was just kind of like a natural step of my inner process and my own path. So to take the ordination vows, to take the monk's robes. And so right now I'm living in a monastery in the south of India. There are 3 big monasteries in this school, which is the Gelupa school of the Tibetan Buddhism, which is the school from His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So I just ordained and I'm staying here at Sera Monastery. I haven't started a program here because they have a 19 years program of Tibetan Buddhist philosophy study. I haven't started yet. So I'm just here learning Tibetan language, which is very hard. And then the coronavirus just came in and kind of like postponed a little bit all of this. Yeah, so right now, well, maybe it's good to talk a little bit about my previous life. And
this point.
Have you always had an interest in Buddhism, or when did it first come about?
To be honest, my parents, they're both doctors in Brazil. My dad, he's kind of like a scientist mind, so he believes that everything is just like chemistry and kind of like biology, things just coming together, and that's how we work. And my mom is quite the opposite. Is like Brazil is very open to religions and to ways of thinking, different philosophies and all of this, and she kind of like believed in everything. So she was kind of like going to the church sometimes if she felt good, but also going to Buddhist temples, and we have different types of religions in Brazil, so she was always going to these and exploring them. So I wasn't raised as any type of religion, but I always had this inquire about life, this really wanting to understand that there was more in life. I lost my grandparents when I was young, and I remember that really kind of like made me think about like what happens when we die, and lots of people say, oh, there's no such thing, we just die and that's it. Or some people say, oh, there's something called reincarnation, so maybe actually there is another type of life after that. So when I was about 12 years old, I decided that I wanted to explore the different types of religions. So I asked my mom to go through the different types of centers and churches and temples. So I stayed for 3 years, kind of like going to different types of temples and church and reading a lot. And at that moment, I remember that Buddhism really touched me. I read a book from His Holiness the Dalai Lama called An Ethics for a New Millennium. I think that's the name. And I remember that it made sense, was quite logical, and that really, really interested me. So after that, but then I was a bit like, I'm still in high school, I need to decide what to do. And because my parents were both doctors and they didn't really, first they were really working towards benefiting people, doctors, I think we are experiencing these now during this crisis, is just how they really put their own lives, in order to save others people's lives. And it's very, very beautiful, but they didn't make that much money because in Brazil, the public doctors, they don't make that much money. So I decided that what I wanted was to make a lot of money fast, so I could give to my parents a good old age. When they retire, they can actually have a good house, they can travel, they can do something. So I went to university and I did law. in one university, and I studied accounting in another university at the same time. So I did that for 5 years. I had classes from 7 a.m. until 12. Then I had to go and work because my parents didn't have that much money to sustain me. So I was working from 1 to 6:30. Then I was studying from 6:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. every day for 5 years. So I did that because I really wanted to make money. So then I went to London to do a business course, a finance course in the LSE. And then I started working. Well, I started to already working with law and accounting at some level. Then I went straight to finances, and I worked for asset management in Brazil. I worked for 4.5 years there. I became a partner over there. I had a team of 20 people working for me, and we were creating projects and doing what we call private equity, which is investing in small companies. But I wasn't happy. I was there, I was just like, I was 24, 25 years old at the time, and like I was quite successful for my age, and everybody thought that I was, super well, but I just wasn't happy. And at that time, I started to go to meditation courses, I started to do yoga, and I started to look for a counselor, for a therapist, just to kind of like start really asking myself, like, how do I find happiness? Because everybody told me that this was the way, and I did it, and I'm here, and I still need to do some stuff, but it's not there. So this gave me the strength. At that time, I already started to read more about Buddhism, and really, really touched me, and to participate in meditation retreats and meditation classes. And I said, okay, so I need, because of my personality, I think that, how can I say, I think the individual world, it is individual, right? But the way we kind of like decide to make steps in our lives, I really decided on the way we have been working up to that point. So my mind was always very extreme. So I really needed to cut down, everything. So I needed to just go away. So I just sold my car, get out of my apartment, and just decided to leave my work. And I started traveling because I really needed to, how can I say, to rest a bit, because I was working a lot.
Thinking what you're just saying, from like
exactly.
In work.
Exactly. So after university, I worked for 4 years, and it was also the same schedule, 16, 18 hours a day. So I was just really needing to stop a bit and to take care of myself. So my dad said that he wanted to go to Portugal, where our grandparents are from. And then so I said, okay, so I really wanted to come to Asia. I really wanted to come to India, where I've been in India before that. And I said, but actually I think I'm going to just stay here. So I started in the south of Patagonia in Argentina, and I just started walking up from South America. So I did for 6.5 months just walking and just kind of like hitchhiking and doing something like that, just being in nature, just walking and relaxing myself and my body and my mind, because I needed this transition period. Then I went to, after that, what did I do? Then I went to Europe. Yeah, I went actually to Mexico and to Canada to see my brother, then to Europe, and then to Asia, finally. And then in Asia, I started to work in some NGOs, in some projects, because I also thought that this was what I wanted, like, oh, maybe I can actually use my skills to serve people, to do some good. And I realized that not only people were very kind of not happy in these NGOs, but I also felt that I was not really helping. There was so many restrictions and so many possibilities. Actually, you can help in many ways. There's so many NGOs and so many projects. So I was a bit like, oh, what to do, how to help. And then, do you know about Amma? Is this lady who gives hugs to people?
Wow.
No? So she's this woman in the south of India who kind of has an amazing story as well. She's like an Indian woman from a very low caste, and she gives hugs to people. That's the way she kind of like makes people break their hearts, let's put it like that. Open their hearts in the way of like really touching them in a deeper way. So she gives hugs to people, and she has a big ashram, so a big place for people to actually learn and study and meditate and contemplate. And I said, I had a dream with my mom saying, you need to go there. So I just wake up and said, okay, I'm going to go there. So I went over there, and it was a very interesting and beautiful experience. So I stayed over there, and people were really devoted, because when you go to a place where everybody is going to the same direction, which is really trying to know themselves better. You know, it's a like really understanding their minds, understanding their feelings, understanding how they work, and also understand how why they have decided to make these movements. You know, why they were not happy. It's a self-inquiry world, which really when you have a space where it's conducive for that, like these inner process really help, you know, like to clarify in your mind. So I was there, and then I was like, oh, I really like that, but it's still not that, you know. It was the first time that I did some long meditation retreats, and then I decided to go to Nepal because I needed to get out of the country because of visa issues, because of India. And I arrived in Kathmandu, and I went to this place called Kopan Monastery, which is on the top of a hill in Kathmandu, and I just really loved the place. And then over there they have lots of courses. Buddhist philosophy, and especially Tibetan Buddhism, is very logical and very kind of like self-inquiry. So it's not about you just sitting down and listening to what they say. It's like really you applying all of these new concepts and new ideas that people are talking to you in your own mind. So when we start to talk about karma and reincarnation and impermanence, all of these new concepts that actually permeate our daily lives, but we don't pay attention to them because we are in a different way of seeing things. It was very, very interesting. So it felt very right. It just felt right. It was kind of like this connection that you feel, and then you say, well, actually, I like that. But if you really would ask me if I would become a monk, I would never say that, because I was a lot against kind of like these too much, like, oh, I was into these extremes, so I don't need to go, like, I don't want to go to these extremes. So I didn't actually thought about, even though there is always this wish to say, okay, actually, if I become a monk, maybe everything is gonna, you know, I'm gonna find it, you know, I'm gonna get there. You know, this kind of like idea that you just shave your head, shave your beard, put on some clothes, and everything's gonna be wow. Yeah, it's not there.
I mean, with what you're saying is like you talk about application and like and what you think was going to happen. I mean, the NGO thing I find is interesting because I sort of had a similar thing of always wanting to like in my teenage years being like, yeah, money, like as you see, like money gets you everything. And then I had the same thing of like, oh, maybe I want to work for an NGO because I want to help people. But like that logic doesn't always apply, because when you work with some of these NGOs, I get what you mean. Like it's just not the same, and you don't feel fulfilled. So do you feel that the path you've taken now, it was like the logic's there, and like you said, the application and your practice is also there? Was that a big part of it?
Yeah. I think for me, what was the big part was that in the NGOs, what was missing was that not only was much more chaotic than a business in a business environment because of the lack of funds and lack of expertise and all of that, but there was this it is this basic unsatisfaction of the human mind, and this basic unsatisfaction and of people, even though they are helping others, but they are still unhappy. And I could see that, you know, that it was not necessarily because we are helping people when we go to the NGOs, and this is my experience. I'm not saying that it is like that for most people, but there is something selfish there. There is something that we are still expecting someone or something to actually, someone to praise us or someone to come and say that we are a good person or someone to, there is still some expectations that will create suffering, because they will create some type of it's an expectation against the reality, and the reality is another thing, so it is kind of it will create some type of conflict, internal conflict, that will not allow us to actually experience just pure fulfillment or satisfaction. So when we come into a mindset that there is an expectation about something that we are about to do, and this can be anything, it's not about just a career, just working on an NGO, just becoming a monk and joining a monastery, it's everything that we do. If we come up with these type of mindsets that actually there is some expectation there, an expectation to want something, to get something, then the mind has this incredible potential to not go well. The things are just going to fall apart. Why? Because there's so many causes and conditions for that thing to happen in the way that we want, And not only this, it's just so many people are involved in that organization and in that aspect. So many people also have different wishes and wantings for the same thing. So because of this, if everybody wants to have that work or their organization to work in the way that they feel it is going to be good, then nothing's going to happen, So that's for me what it is the most important aspect that I realized, that it was, there is still expectation from my side, So that expectation is bringing some type of suffering for myself.
Yeah.
So this doesn't matter for me if it is here, if it is in an NGO, or if it is in joining a monastery. Everywhere can have this mindset.
I think it's interesting you say that there was a time where you never imagined becoming an actual Buddhist monk, because that step was quite great. We've been brought up as Catholic and Christian children, but recently in the past year I began to study Tibetan Buddhism. And I've been reading the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying by Sogyal Rinpoche. It's my first experience with Tibetan Buddhism. It's probably quite a westernized version of it, but I have already, by practicing meditation and reading about Buddhism, I feel like I've benefited greatly from just allowing that space for my mind to be to work out who I am and have that freedom of thought and look deeper into my thoughts. But what I was going to ask is, was there ever a moment where you felt alienated by this really sort of rigorous way of life and this extremely dedicated practice?
Yes, absolutely. I think it was kind of in steps, and gradually. When I decided to come to India for the first time, I said I really want to commit myself for at least 3 months to not have external contact, to really dip myself into what I was doing. And this was very hard. Well, first of all, deciding to leave my job was very hard already for many people. The people that I work with all my business partners, they were just one of them stayed shouting at me for 2 hours saying how stupid I was, because I was just throwing my life away, because how can you do that? You just work it so much and blah, 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 and we invested in you. And I understand, because it's so foreigner for him to think about doing something like that. One of the partners, she told me that, she said, I have nothing to tell you, because it's so strange for me what you're doing. I cannot even think about it. It was so good. And another one that was incredible, because I didn't think about it. It was really a wish that I needed to get out of that lifestyle, because I really needed this time for myself. And one of them told me, just started crying in front of me, which was very awkward, but he said, I really admire the courage that you're having to do that, because I didn't do it. And I'm stuck in here, And now he has a type of lifestyle that he can't. He has so many commitments, financial commitments, like this, the school, the kids, and, all of these, the university, and that he can't let it go. So for me, it was just realizing when I left, all of these people in some way, the contact was falling apart. Then all of my friends from university, some of them really understood, because they knew that I was not happy, but some of them they didn't, and they were judgmental, because we always judge from our own perspective of what it is most beneficial, right? Oh, this person should be doing that because, of course, it's better that. Well, we only know because is that what we think is going to be better for us or what we think is better for the other person. We never really put into perspective or into perception the other person's wishes and wants, right? So a lot of people really kind of like, for them was very hard. And of course, when you start to like to have a different path, the conversation just becomes different, and the interest is the share, like what you used to share. I used to drink, I stopped drinking at that moment, and then so you don't meet people in a bar anymore. So okay, so where do you meet people? You don't go to a pub anymore. So you go out for dinner. Okay, we go out for dinner, but then it's just different. It's just a different like. But the people who really stayed in my life, really, I could see that how my relationship became much more deep with them, because I don't know how to say, it's just like we started to connect in a different way. We started to really connect in how are you really feeling? What is really going on with you? Like, are you really happy? Or like to really ask questions in the way that we could connect much more with our inner qualities, in our inner world and our inner feelings. And so there's lots of my still like my friends from school. I have friends from like almost 25 years that I know them, and they still my friends, and people that I met during my path as well, because that was one of the things that I realized, that when I decided to leave my previous job, was that I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know where I was going. So to find places and people that have been doing that and having been successfully living a life that doesn't need to be a life that I was used to, also it's wonderful to see that's like, oh yeah, it's not only me. There's some people, we human beings, we are social beings. We need these social structures, to really connect with one another and to connect with parts of ourselves as well. So it was so interesting for me to realize that, oh yeah, there are families, there are people, that they work, went to university, they're just here doing something else, So for me, it was a bit of like feeling, letting go a certain type of worldview that I really didn't want to, and getting another one that actually was beneficial for the path that I was walking now, But it's funny because now that I just recently ordained as a monk, but this is something different, I think, the monasticism, because in a way I'm in a monastery where there are 3,000 monks here, but most of them are Tibetans, right? So, or Indians or Mongolians. Of course, there is still a barrier, a difficulty with the language. I don't speak the language, which is difficult to, really connect with people. But we will never be an Indian or a Tibetan. So, and now, right now, I'm really not also a normal Western, So right now I can definitely feel that there is even not more barriers, but there is more sense of, it is the niche is getting smaller and smaller, So,
Environment's a massive thing with when you're making these decisions. For example, like say you're working in your old job, in your old life, and you were saying how these people don't understand it and they can make you like second guess yourself. Like from graduating from university, all the graduate jobs and stuff I felt were just a continuation of a path that I wasn't very interested in, to quite a corporate world. And I've chosen a path where I create this platform. I can do projects that I believe in, and even doing like different things. Like when I worked with your sister in the chocolate factory, that was just kind of an interesting job at the time.
Yes.
But then sometimes when you go back with these people who are lawyers, work within finance and stuff, you do get that feeling of, should I be doing this? And when you tell them your story or like what you've been doing, they sort of look at you like, and then it makes you second guess yourself. Was that like a huge thing for you? Like, did that?
No, No, for me, it was quite the opposite, actually. I didn't realize, because the first time I came back to Brazil after I left was almost 2 years after, because it was my brother's wedding. And I went to see my old co-workers, and they were so interested to know what I was doing, how I was living. Because for them was just like, of course, making lots of jokes and making fun of me and thinking like, well, you haven't been working for 2 years. What are you doing? Because in the sense of their minds, it's like working is a 9 to 5 job, or just like working a lot and having all these responsibilities. So for them was so interesting. And actually one of them recently, 1 year ago, decided to quit her job, and now she's studying like how to be a coach, and how to really deepen herself into meditation. And she said that, like, because of me, I'm not saying that because, oh, I want to feel special, but it is just these things that you don't realize, that how you can affect people, and influence people positively, because you're following your heart, because you're following what you feel is beneficial for you. So it was very interesting, because people actually got very, very, very interested. And if you think about, as I think we were talking before, we all know in certain levels, even though we are working whatever type of work we are, that we are not always fulfilled, or we are not always happy, that our minds are really kind of like sometimes making us struggle or creating some problems, and we are not satisfied. And even though, we can have everything, we are still like with these issues. And nowadays, like, thanks to internet and to many different, and especially I think the Dalai Lama, because he has been talking with scientists, meditation has been becoming each day more and more in the mainstream. Like, people are starting to understand, like, what are the benefits of it. And
saying this as a tip, we say to people, oh, what should people do at home? And like, say, for example, we had a personal trainer that did this with us, and she said like meditation, and like, it is becoming a bit more mainstream, like you're saying.
It is. And because it's funny, because like I really like the scientific approach of things, but it's just like, oh, when the yoga movement really started, and started all of these research saying, oh yes, like science has kind of like proved the benefits of yoga. Well, people in India have been proving for themselves and for others like the benefit of yoga for maybe 3,000 years. It's the same thing with meditation. Buddhism has been for 2,600 years just like really proving that meditation works. So it is very useful, I think, that science is starting to getting into contact with these different philosophies and different ways, because people can really trust, that it is. The problem with meditation is that it is a very individual thing, and very hard sometimes to see the results, because the results are internal results. So if you don't actually analyze these results internally, if you are waiting something outside to happen, then it becomes a bit like, it's not really happening. But I think, as we were talking before, the benefits of meditation nowadays is just that we need to be careful to not only use it to, especially with mindfulness, to only relax the mind, the relaxation of the mind and all of that. This is great, and it's a very useful tool of meditation, but this is literally the step zero of really what meditation can bring to you. So it is important that we do use the tools that are available now, but we take care to not only stop in use in a way that actually is going to make our minds sometimes even worse. So we need to be very careful how we use meditation. And I think more and more people are developing new tools and are exploring the meditations, not only to use as a relaxation, but also to really follow the path and follow the steps that actually meditation is there for. So I think that what I feel about, let's talk a little bit about the coronavirus situation. Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah. How did it were you supposed to go on a 3-year? Was it a 3-year retreat with the Dalai Lama, or?
Actually, I was supposed to do retreat, but what happened is that because of the ordination and because I decided to join the monastery, I'm actually now gonna start to probably, let's see, study at the monastery. You know, I don't know for how long I'm gonna be staying here, because I don't know if I can stay here for 19 years to do the to do the 19 years curriculum here. I think I don't have the stamina that this will take, because it's long hours, you know, and you need to do lots of memorization. The way the philosophical system in the curriculum works here is that first you read and memorize text, and then after you have classes, so you actually someone explains to you what you already like memorized and read and studied, and you know, on yourself. And then you do a debate, a philosophical debate on that. It's not like a debate that is like in the West. It's very open now. It's quite structured. So the idea of the debate is to actually realize the way, well, from one side, to realize how you are understanding and how is your logical understanding of that theme. But also the other person is trying to show to you where are the flaws of your logical thinking process. So it's a very enthusiastic and very deep process, because you really need to work on your mind to realize, wait, that's how I'm understanding. And then when you start to speaking, you know, it becomes clear already, much clearer. You know, the way you were thinking when you put it outside, and you were like, oh, I said that. Okay, so now I need to defend this position, you know? So it is very, very interesting. But this is for 19 years, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. But what is really happened here at South, because India has been in lockdown now for maybe 3 weeks, I think. So we haven't been able to go out of the monastery. We have food here, and we have a small little shop that we can go to buy just essential things. But normally, the Tibetan monasteries, they're really a communal place. So we do everything in community, no? So we have the prayer halls where we go to pray every day, and we do studying in group and all of this. So now we can't do that. So this has really affected the way we do things here. So we haven't been able to congregate, to come together, to actually pray together and do some of the practices and also study. But everybody's individually studying in their houses. So this has changed. But I think what really changed it for me is to realize the amount of information that there is now, you know, about coronavirus and people staying at home. Lots of people have more time, so people are reaching out and really asking how I'm doing, and also wanting to talk about themselves. And it's been very interesting to observe how people, yeah, I think most of my friends, of the people that I have been talking to, they've been saying that it is a very sad situation. It is, lots of people are suffering, you know, lots of people are dying, lots of people are still sick, and of course the financial aspect of it, which is already happening, but is still gonna, you know, continue for a couple of months or more. And of course here in India the situation is quite sad with the poor people. They don't have places to live, they don't have places to go, you know. It is a very sad situation, and people have been talking a lot about, oh, this is a wake-up call moment, you know, we should be really thinking about and like going internally and reflecting, and you know, and doing all of this. But what I've been talking to people is that how people are really doing that, you know, how are really people changing themselves, how are really people analyzing themselves, because people are really talking about what we should be doing, but are we really doing that, you know? Because to really sit down with our thoughts and with our emotions, with our ways and worldviews of things, it needs a lot of honesty and a lot of courage, you know, to really do that, because it is realizing and asking yourself some questions. Am I happy in what I'm doing? Do I believe in the way things are being done? You know? And really digging into some of these questions in the way that not wanting to avoid whatever is coming as an answer, you know, not really wanting to, okay, yeah, these I can deal with, these. Of course, it is a process that you do that when you feel that you're ready. But the real work, it is to really be honest with yourself, right? And I can feel that some people, or at least some people that I've been talking to, unfortunately, they talk a lot about what we should be doing, but really doing it, it is quite different, right? It's what I said about before, that what I really like about Tibetan Buddhism is that it doesn't matter. And like, you know, there's this quote from the Buddha himself in 2,600 years ago that he said, don't believe in anything I say, try for yourself, you know, just like, so it's not about just listening to some words or saying some beautiful words. Is what are you doing here? Because if you don't change your mind, you know, if you don't let go of bad habits and you don't develop or increase the good habits that you already have, or if you don't open your heart and become more compassionate, more kind to people, then, you know, it's really difficult to kind of like talk about what people should be doing, because that's normally how we react to things. We always point the finger outside, you know, what people should be doing, or what this should be done, or this is the problem, or that is the problem. Well, let's really see what is the problem, you know. Why is being a struggle for me to stay home with my family? Why is being a struggle for me to stay home with my kids, you know? What it is in me that is not happy, you know? But because to do that, we also need some tools, you know. We need some tools, and meditation can come in this moment, you know, to really help us to like get some clarity in our minds, you know, some space. And of course, also to build a safe space, you know, for ourselves, because these inquire about ourselves really trembles everything that is certain about our personalities. And that's what I really like about the coronavirus in some level, is that we all have these ideas of like, we are all looking for some type of security in life, you know, like whatever that may be, you know. It can be having a partner, having a family, having a stable job, having a source of income, which is all valuable. We are not taking these. The problem is that when something like that comes, we realize that it's not as secure as we think, you know. And this insecurity normally creates some fear, creates anxiety, creates lots of different aspects of our minds that we don't want to face, you know. But instead of really realizing and asking ourselves, but why this uncertainty brings us fears? Because this is what like really interested me when I remember when I was young, was that understanding like why dying is so like, why we are so afraid of dying, you know. Why, what it is in death, which is the most uncertain, well, it's the most certain thing that will happen to all of us, but it's the most uncertain, like when it's going to happen, or, you know, how it's going to happen, we don't know. But we do know that we're going to die. But we don't ask ourselves these questions, you know? And just not like only asking ourselves these questions, but really feeling these, you know, feeling these fears inside of us, and feeling these of like, oh wow, that's true, you know, wow, I do feel fear when I think about death. Or maybe, oh, I don't want to talk about death, I don't even want to talk about these things. But all of these questions about how life is in the normal aspect of it, you know, like this insecurity is there, you know. How many times we haven't seen rich people like that totally just like lost all their money, you know. So also money is not a secure thing. Or people that were like amazing sports people and like very healthy, and then they became sick and died, or something like that. So all of these aspects that we are looking for security is like, it's very good to inquire, you know, and in this moment that we are feeling all of these insecurities, but also giving ourselves lots of love to not know the answer, to feel this fear, to hold a space that we feel, you know, kind and compassion to ourselves, which is also very hard, because we are the first ones to actually beat ourselves up, you know, to say we are not doing enough.
With the current, like, the coronavirus, it gives an opportunity to prompt a lot of reflection, and like people being at home, a chance to develop who you are, and try some new things. But I think at the same time that your ultimate comfort is at home. And I think a lot of people will just be sinking ever deeper into that comfort. Like personally, like I'm eating as much chocolate as I ever did. I'm still playing on my Xbox like a lot. I'm still doing all these things.
Absolutely.
And I'm lucky that we had this project and our website beforehand, so we had an outlet to still work and produce stuff and try new things. But in the core living, like my eating and my sleeping and all that, I'm not challenging myself, and I'm using it as an excuse really, because I'm going, I've got to stay at home.
That's it. And not only this, I think it's also because this uncertainty and this anxiety also brings up a lot of our bad habits, because these habits are kind of like coping mechanisms. Let's put like that, And these habits, as you were saying, like, oh yeah, chocolate definitely gives you some satisfaction, and it's okay, But it's just like it is the using it too much, or the way we use it in order to get something out, that it is the problem. Is again what I said about the expectations, so it is very interesting to see, because for me what I really did was I have I'm because of my finance mindset, I created I love Excel spreadsheet. So I created an Excel spreadsheet with like all the activities and the schedule that I have to do, and there's this wonderful website on like online courses, so I've been doing kind of like agile and design thinking courses, which is like new business models and business ways of doing things. And I've been kind of like doing neuroscience courses because I always got interested in that. At the same time that I've been trying to study Tibetan, which is like why I'm here. And at the same time, I've been using my time to go, into the garden and just take care of the garden here, And so I really like the way like the schedule has been helping me, because every time that my mind is wandering of like and then I just go to my phone, or like, oh, then maybe I just gonna just don't do anything, or just be looking at the ceiling. I just have something there, so I put a list of during this time. I have a look, oh, I want to learn that, I want to use that, I want to read this book, I want to do that. So every time that my mind goes a little bit of like la la la, I just like, okay, what is the schedule saying for me to do? Okay, so then I go, and the schedule brings a security to the mind, because it creates a conducive environment and a conducive, how can I say, step-by-step way that you just can go and do it. That's the thing about like what I feel here at the monastery as well, is that the schedule is so tight, but also it really helps because you already have some type of like structure. It helps the mind not to wander too much. Having a structure, it helps this to the mind, especially if it is a structure that helps the mind to actually go inwards, or to meditate, or to contemplate, or to study. So if you create, this is like something that has been helping to me, and is helping me, and it's just like creating a structure of things that I feel that are helpful for my mind. Doing my daily practices, my meditation practices, learning Tibetan, learning other types of interesting things, because now the internet has everything, watching videos about Tibetan, like about the teachers. So many amazing people now are doing these online courses, or online talks, or, many options that you can do it, and for free, So it's been very good for me, this idea, because I also put an app on my phone to not use it more than 2 hours a day, which has been very useful, because I'm like, I could see in the beginning, I was like, oh yeah, because we had finished a 10 days very intensive retreat here just before the lockdown. So my mind was just like, wow, I need some space, So I could see exactly what you were saying. Like I could see that I was sleeping every day a little bit later, I was waking up later, and then my eating was like, oh yeah, one day eating at that time, one day at that time, and then and I can feel that all of these habits, actually don't let my mind more focused, not paying more attention, or more creative. So having a structure helps also the mind to, okay, now I know what I have to do, so I just go and do it, interact, be present to what I'm doing, come back. So it's been very, very interesting, the schedule that I created for myself.
Do you ever have days where you just can't get into your zone of meditation, or you feel completely off like beat, or are you quite good now at like getting into a deep state?
Absolutely. It's like the thing is that it's not about getting something out of the meditation. It's just about doing it. And this has been something that really helped me. Is like, every time that I couldn't actually focus, or I do 1.5 hour session in the morning, and then I do one in the afternoon, and then the one in the evening. And sometimes the mind is just tired, or sometimes the mind just wants to go to the phone, or sometimes the mind just wants to do something else. And I really realized that even if I'm just there sitting with myself, or if I'm reading some of the prayers, and my mind is not there, it's okay. It is again creating this safe space for yourself, really creating this space where you don't judge your mind, you don't judge yourself. It's like you're not in a good, it's okay, but you still try. Meditation is what? Oh, your mind is wandering around, and then you just come back, and you just come back. If you stay for half an hour without coming back, it's okay. When you come back, you're meditating. So all of these is really kind of like helps me. But what the schedule has helped me in another aspect was like, oh, now I don't feel actually like studying Tibetan, because it really, or memorizing, because really gets me something. Okay, so what do I have here in the schedule today? Oh, I also have this neuroscience course to do. Okay, so I'm gonna, shift them. Okay, now I'm gonna do the neuroscience course, and then maybe in the time that I should do the neuroscience course, I'm gonna try to study Tibetan, because maybe my mind is going to be in a different mind state at that time, and then I can actually do it. And this has been very helpful as well, because all the activities that I chose are activities that in some level are going to help my mind and help myself, but they have very different ways. Like a business course is totally different than a meditation session. So I can also kind of like play with that, saying, oh, well, wait a bit, actually, I can't sit down to study here right now. Okay, so let's watch a movie, about a certain topic, or let's do a business course, or let's like go and work in the garden. So all of this has been very helpful to also respect how I am feeling at that moment.
Really interested in
Yeah.
what you're saying about expectation, and like you were saying about how maybe with an organization, every different person will have a different expectation, and that might contribute to how you're maybe not feeling fulfilled in doing that, because there's conflicting interests there. I think with the work that me and Tom do, we've worked with, so me and Tom have known each other for our whole lives practically.
Sorry, I've been speaking a lot, and I don't know much about you guys. So,
That's okay.
So we've known for like our whole lives virtually. We always tell each other we're very fortunate that when we work together, generally we're nearly always on the same page of what we want to achieve. And if we're not, we're quite good at taking some time and thinking, okay, maybe he wants it to be like that, and we can see why. But we have noticed that when outsiders come in a lot, it can be quite frustrating for that reason. I mean, the whole process of doing all of this, like I'll say I find this quite fulfilling, and I'll say Tom would say the same. But we do get very down on ourselves because of, I think, the expectation thing. I think, day to day when we talk about what we do and what we achieve, we're very happy. But when we talk about where we're at in terms of like a business model, I think gets us down a lot. And where we want to be in the centre of London, working with the best people and doing all these things, whereas in reality we're on the outskirts of London, of being what we deem to be successful, even though we love what we do.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think we really struggle with. I don't know about you, Tom, but
yeah, I think the expectation almost like suffocates the actual goal we're trying to achieve. It makes it harder to achieve the goal because we're trying to gain followers, we're trying to grow as a business, and these things almost take away from the actual goal of trying to make change, positive change in the world. And yeah, it is difficult, but
yeah, I guess there's two aspects of things. Like what I really like to like how I like to visualize things is just like when we have an expectation, it's almost like kind of like having like having to put something like that is a square in a round thing and really wanting it to fit,
Yeah,
you know, and kind of, and as you said, Tom, is like this creates so much pressure, you know, from the outside thing and from ourselves internally as well, you know, because we're really trying something to be something that it might not be, you know. So it is very but expectation is something that we it's just a mental habit, to be honest, you know. It's just something that we really were trained to learn and to do in everything that we do in life. But it is just a way to kind of like some level look for this security that we were talking about before, you know, because not having expectations like, oh, so then why should I do it, you know, because most of the people go to the other extreme. It's like, oh, if I don't have expectation to get something out of that, then why should I do it? You do what's why Tom said, just because it is the right thing to do, you know, just because it is the right thing to do. But this is not enough normally, you know, because also we need to kind of like get some, like make some money and do things. So it's how to shape these expectations in a way that is making everybody involved in the organization happy. So that's why it's so important in a business aspect. What I think it is to really share the purpose, you know, really see if the values of the company of or whatever business you were talking about, to really see how these are in like really like in joined with your, you know, your values, what you believe, you know, and not think that these are the values that should, like the right values, you know, that should be that people will find it cool and all of things. Because it's how one of the things that it really, really transformed the way I see things is just this realization of it's not about what we do, but how we do things. You know, it's how. And how doesn't mean only externally, but especially internally. Because it's the mindset that we are, why we are getting into any activity that we are entering, you know, that we are acting on, is like these will totally transform, you know, that activity. Because I can do something that expecting something, wanting something to succeed and putting a lot of effort, even it is a beautiful project and to really help people and all of that, you know. I have some projects here. I participate in many projects around the world just to help people, you know, with business. I have a project in London that we are creating a hostel, you know, a vegan, eco-friendly hostel. So it's just like, and one of the things that I try to say to people is that, like, yes, the ideas are brilliant and it's definitely going to be amazing, but let's not die, you know, or really be unhappy while doing that, you know. So let's really take care of our mindsets on while we're doing that, because if not, it's just, it doesn't matter what we do, you know. It doesn't matter if you are working fancy or if you are just doing, like, you know, an amazing NGO project. Yeah, the mindset can be the same, you know, even though the outcome is different. But from an internal point of view, it is very, very important for us to take care of that. It's like, what am I expecting from here? Why am I doing that? You know, what am I trying to achieve? You know, when I'm actually launching myself into this activity. And I'm not only talking about, you know, business activities. It can be like, why am I in my phone right now? You know, realizing that, like, why? What is it is that I'm actually trying to achieve when I'm looking at my phone randomly, you know, and just like scrolling it's like, oh, wait. Yeah, I'm not doing anything that is actually being good for me or for anyone. So let's change. And then you change, you know, or maybe just realizing these things and, okay, so what can I do to change that? You know? So it can be a business aspect that needs to be changed. It can be an internal aspect. It can be both, you know, because both things are complementary, you know, the way you feel, you know, because that's one of the things that I really, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama, he says these things that is so beautiful. He says, how can we want peace in the world if we don't have peace inside ourselves? How can we have, how does we want to be have compassion in the world if we don't have compassion inside ourselves? Everything is just because all of these things are innate, you know, like they like a business doesn't exist if there's no people doing the business, you know. And the way people are doing the business, it is the most important aspect. So how our minds are, if we are with a peaceful mind, if we are with a detached mind, if we are with a loving, kind mind, if we are with a mind that really wants to benefit others, wow. The project itself, it doesn't matter how it's going to transform, how it's going to manifest.
Yeah, because we always say, like, so we've done projects that have raised money for like homeless people. We work with students, and that's been really great, being a platform for them. And you feel really happy to have helped those people and to communicate with those people. But like we've said before, you get disappointed when it's like the world hasn't like appreciated through social media. They have, you know, and we forget sometimes what we've actually done and what we've actually achieved.
Mm. I think from what you're saying, Marcos, it's almost like you need to let go of the expectation of like people saying congratulations and just do it anyway, and hopefully that will just let it grow.
Yeah, there's a beautiful teaching in the Buddhist teachings that we talk about the 8 worldly dharmas is the name. It's a bit I don't like this name, but yeah, but the idea is that everything that we do, we are looking for praise, we are looking for fame, we are looking for comfort, and we are looking for some type of satisfaction out of it, you know? And we are also looking for not being criticized, for not wanting to be, you know, like letting nobody noting or noticing that us, or if you want to like go into some type of struggle and all of that. If we really analyze our minds, this is all there. And as long as we keep with this mindset, the possibility of the probability of like suffering, creating suffering for ourselves, or not really achieving the full potential of the project, it's almost 100%, 90% I would say. Because these mindsets, they will interfere in the way of the that we really have, you know? If we want to make mindsets, wanting to have fame or wanting to want something from ourselves, this will interfere in the way we act in order to fulfill that goal. So it's very interesting, very, very interesting, because anything we do, you know?
Sorry, I was just wondering, do you use like social media?
Yes, I have Facebook.
Did you use it a lot, or like?
Nah,
because it's
like
that's a really bad thing for expectation and stuff like that. Like for all the stuff you're talking about and fame and like social media is like pretty much like embodies all of that.
But this is because this is also kind of like lots of philosophical these aspects. The Buddhist philosophy as a philosophy, they have different kind of like branches, let's put like that. And one of them is the psychology branch, which is very related to what I'm talking about, you know. And the other one can be the philosophical, and the other one the kind of like the religious. All of these creates like what it is like Tibetan Buddhism. But the philosophy, the psychology, yeah. If you really go into understand, and there's amazing courses about that, you know, about like about how to understand the people you are doing business, you know, the like your market target, or you know, your customers, and how do they work, you know. It's wonderful to see all of these things are there, you know, how people are using these to you know, and to services that we actually don't quite need, you know, but it's just to sell, you know. So it is very interesting because it is, as I said, it's just there, you know, like how we create this idea of like, oh, someone liking my photo, you know, what does this makes us feel internally? If you observe that, it's like, oh yes, someone liked me, you know, because we are outside, we are looking for that outside. And this is something that really, really also transformed my way of seeing things, is that yeah, we are social beings and we live in community, but everything that we are looking for outside, wow, we have everything inside. We just need to develop it, you know, because nobody taught us how to actually develop love to ourselves, kindness to ourselves, compassion towards ourselves, you know. It's so interesting, like we're all the time outside looking for that.
It sounds as if you're like where you are now. Like I didn't realize there were so many different there's so much activity of like different things and different like projects and different like schools of learning. Like it seems like there's quite a lot of different ways you can go, living and well, living the way you are on the monastery.
Yeah, definitely. FOP is kind of one of the reasons that I feel very blessed the way how kind of like things came together. Now is like because of my past background, I can actually use it. But if I don't train don't train my mind, like whatever I'm going to use is going to be the same result as it was before. But now each day that I can actually meditate and understand my mind and open my heart and really like clarity, like get some clarity of my own mind and the way I work, I can actually combine these two things in a much more effective and efficient way. It's been very interesting to see that. And I think now I know everybody can do that, you know? It's not about, it's like we all have specific and unique skills, you know, that we are the only ones because of the way the circumstances and our life, the way we lived our lives and our experiences. And we all have this set of skills that we can actually benefit so much the world. But we need to also realize that we have this mind in this kind of like, it's almost like this potential in ourselves that right now is being dominated by this mind that is like me. Oh, I want that, me. And also that say, oh, I am not good enough, or I cannot do that, and I cannot, you know. But it's the opposite. It's once we let go of this voice, you know, of this talking mind that is there saying that we cannot do things, that we like, wow, the potential that we can use, you know, and all of us can actually change the world. You know, it is as simple as that. By changing ourselves, we change the world. So it is so important that people can understand that. And that's why I say, when people say like, oh yes, this is a perfect like time to reflect, and like, so then reflect. So then analyze yourself. So then meditate on yourself. You know, do it now. You know, don't wait for tomorrow. Like really start observing what are the bad habits that you don't like and what are the good habits that you like in yourself and that you can actually improve. Well, and use for the benefit of you and the people around you. Don't think too big, you know. Yes, think globally, but act locally. You know, this idea is totally Buddhist, you know. It's kind of like, yes, think a lot. We say all the prayers we talk about all sentient beings. And sentient beings means every being that has like a consciousness. And these can be a human, but an animal, and also, you know, some type of spirits or whatever you want to call, you know. So all of these is like, all of it are included, but act locally, you know. If you think about all of these good things that you want and wish for everybody, but with the person next to you, you are not being kind, you're not being compassionate, and it's just mouth talk. Yeah, so let's really do it now, you know. And we have the potential, and there's so many tools nowadays, more and more, for people to really, you know, develop these inner qualities. The Dalai Lama, he has a project that's been very, very good with Emory University in America, that they're bringing these tools in order to join a curriculum, a normal curriculum at school, you know, because we learn all this knowledge, you know, maths and science and chemistry, but we don't know, like, oh, but I'm not feeling good now, or someone said something that hurted me. How do I deal with that? You know, all of these inner tools that we don't know how to do. You know, as you were saying, oh, maybe you went on sometimes, you know, because you guys know each other, so you know how it works. But, you know, maybe Ton said something that you don't like it. And how do you cope with that? You know, because we have the tendency to like, oh, not wanting to deal with that, or maybe, you know, suppressing it, or maybe getting angry. So how do you really cope with these things? So there's so many tools nowadays that we can use to understand these. and how to understand our own inner world. Because we know a lot about the external world. You know, it's amazing how the human mind has been doing, like, you know, the coronavirus situation. It's horrible, but also, wow, so many amazing things. You know, they developed the test system like that. You know, all of these aids from the governments to some, like, you know, people or things like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
I think
So it's.
I think that's one of the things that was most inviting to me about Buddhism, was that it's just so open, and it's about you as an individual and your inner self, rather than an external god or an external external thing you're trying to achieve. It's about everyone has their own individual self which they need to discover, which arguably when you're a child you have that honesty and you have that openness, and it gets diluted because of the world around you. And I think that's what was most inviting to me about it. And I think that's why it should be inputted into Western schools and Western education, like you say, because I think it would be really beneficial.
Yeah. Because these aspects are not kind of like religions aspects, you know, these are just psychological aspects that actually can benefit anyone. But of course, because it comes wrapped in a in a Buddhist in a Buddhist kind of like aspect, lots of things get some type of repulsion or some type of aversion to it. It is just like real tools. It's like what I realized, that Buddhism is like a set of tools for you yourself to work on whatever you want to do, whatever you want to do with your life, to become a better person for you and others. Who doesn't want that?
Yeah.
Who doesn't want that? So it is quite interesting if people can develop that. So yeah, so I think this time of reflection, it's very important to ask yourself some of these questions and try to look for tools that would like help you in this process, you know, because everything was taught to us, right? I can only speak English and Portuguese, you know, because someone taught me. I can only walk because someone taught me. I can only go to the toilet or cook or do everything we do is because someone taught us, you know. So that's why it's so important that there is people that not only understood rationally but apply this internally in themselves, and they can share that, you know. That's why in Buddhism we talk so much about the importance of the teacher, you know, of finding a teacher that actually can help you. Because you see, you know, like being compassionate, we talk about being compassionate, and you cannot fake, in a way, being compassionate all the time. At some point you're gonna like, wow, you know. And some of these people, like the Dalai Lama or my teacher Lama Zopa Rinpoche, they don't feel it. Like you can see they are pure compassion, and you're like, how can they do it? You know. I like, for me it was so interesting to see the Amma, the hugging lady, giving hugs for 26 hours without going to the toilet, without going to eat anything, you know. Or my teacher giving talks and teachings for thousands of people, and kind of like then after that, like giving one little piece, you know, of it's a string to all of them, you know. It's just like these selfless acts when there's no, because you know that this is what the people need at that moment, you know. So it's very, very, very special if we can really kind of, you know, these role models. It doesn't need to how can I say that, religious people, you know. It can be just normal people in our daily lives that we see, and we see how they interact. You know, you go to a shop and there's someone that is absolutely wonderful with this smile, even though the life is not good, you just feel much better, you know. Why? Because again, we are just social beings, you know. What one person feels, we feel it as well in some level or another, you know. We know when the person is just like, you know, with this face, and you just know. You just know, you know. So you're like, okay, what can I do? So it's very important that we look at ourselves first, and we change the bad habits that we have, increase the good aspects, that the good habits that we have, you know, and we open our hearts to others, because changing ourselves is changing the world. Yeah, it's very, very simple, but very hard to do.
Well, should we end there? I mean, Tom, do you have anything else you'd like to say?
Oh, that's brilliant to hear.
Yeah, thanks so much for speaking to us.
So what's gonna happen? So where is the website? I didn't know anything because me and Ray didn't tell me anything.
So yeah, we as part of this project, we've been releasing these episodes on YouTube and our website. So it's called dropoutmag.com. So I'll send you the links via WhatsApp. But it's just a look into how different people are dealing with coronavirus and how different people are living. I mean, a lot of the work we do feature people from all around the world that are doing different projects. And we had to cancel stuff because of coronavirus. So we thought, what tools do we have available? And we thought we have Skype, we have endless possibilities of who we can get in touch with. Let's see who it's possible to talk with so people can share their perspectives for others. And just, to have some interest. Like I spoke to a really interesting parkour athlete who's like done all kinds of crazy stuff all over the world last night. And it's just been so nice to speak to such a diversity of people. So I'll send you details so you can see everything.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much.
And I used to live and work in London. There is a center there in London called Jamyang. So also they are doing kind of like some online teachings. So if you guys want to also, it's a Buddhist center, very nice in Kennington. Yeah. So if you guys want as well to kind of like some tools and and there's lots of things. And if you need any help with the project or, any business kind of like input as well, if you guys need, or just let me know and I'm glad to help. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate that.
Lovely to meet you. Cheers, Marcus.
Cheers, guys. Thank you so much.
See ya. Bye.
Bye, Ollie.